What's up, guys? Welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. If you guys want to support the channel, you can click on that whatnot link in the description down below. You'll get a free $15 whenever you sign up, and you'll be supporting the channel whenever you do that. Additionally, you can become a patron. Not only is that the best way to support the channel, additionally, you'll get to vote weekly on a deck tech that I cover. Special shout out to my high contributing patrons. Newsome, you rock. Now, let's get into today's video, and today we're talking about these Modern Horizon 3 leaks. There's some really insane ones, but a lot of them are going to cater more towards the CEDH competitive route. I mean, a lot of these are usable in casual, but maybe you'll get some side eyes. But like I said, these are going to be some very powerful cards, so let's get into it. The first card we're going to talk about here is Cathan Nightmare, and this is kind of a mimic of an already banned card, Reoccurring Nightmare. Now, the big limiter here is the energy system they added to this card, so now we have to spend energy to reanimate our creatures, but it already gives us 3 energy. So as long as we're looping creatures that are 3 CMC and below, this can kind of just go infinite with 2 creatures as long as you generate enough mana. Dockside Extortionist breaks this, right? As long as Dockside Extortionist equals 6, it will allow us to cast Cathan Nightmare twice, netting us even, right? So now, as long as we're looping Dockside Extortionist with something that deals damage, maybe an Orcish Bowmaster, we will kill the entire table. We can also do Mayhem Devil stuff, and maybe 6 treasures is too much, but honestly, in CEDH you get there pretty fast. We can also pair it with a Sticker Goblin, right? So that's going to drastically reduce the treasure count Dockside needs to be, and this is going to be very useful in your Corval decks. So now, as long as we have Sticker Goblin and Dockside Extortionist with this Nightmare card, we can go ahead and get infinite treasures, cast our Corval, draw our entire deck. Not very, cash money there, but this is going to be an extremely powerful card, and there's going to be a lot of combos associated with it. You can even do stuff like use Selvala Heart of the Wilds with a 6 power creature, as long as you have haste, right? And again, you just loop Selvala with an Orcish Bowmaster, and maybe you have a Tyvar or Thousand Year Elixir on the battlefield to make sure that we're netting even on that mana. Like I said, it's going to be, you do need to have a 7 power creature, because Selvala cost 1 to activate. Caught myself. But anyway, yes, this is going to be an extremely busted card, so I figured I'd cover it first, get you guys into the video a little bit. Now, the next card we're going to be talking about, this one can be used in casual and CEDH, and it's going to see a decent amount of play, I think, is Ophelia Exuberant Shepherd. Now, what this does is it basically blinks a permanent and then it comes back on instep. In CEDH, this is going to be used a lot to get rid of stacks pieces. That way you can get rid of the Archon of Emeria, you can go off, and then the Archon of Emeria comes back, hindering your opponents. That way it's a one-sided stacks piece for you. It can even get rid of your Dranith Magistrates. That way you can cast your commander. This card's going to be very flexible because it can even blink your Dockside or clone effects. Now, in casual, it's going to be good in those blink strategies. You blink your very valuable pieces, they come back into the battlefield, and you're going to get a little bit of value off of them, and they're going to enter with a counter as well. So I see this card being very useful, especially in CEDH, and again, it can be used in casual. I could see Sisay running it as well because it is a 2 CMC legendary creature, so maybe those Sisay decks want to run that. Another card I did want to talk about for all of those Duskana fans is Kudo. This is going to make everybody's creatures 2/2s. So not only in Duskana, but any counter strategy, I could see myself running this just so we're hindering everybody else, and we're already putting counters on our creatures. So it's a good way to almost guarantee that your creatures will be the biggest on the battlefield. This card is going to be extremely annoying for our opponents to deal with in the right decks, and I'm excited to play it and try it out. Final Act. This is a little bit of a more fair farewell. Now, it does kind of do everything, but the reason why it's a little more fair is you do have to exile all graveyards as part of the resolution, and the creatures get destroyed as a part of a resolution. So everything that it destroys will end up in the graveyard, and it will exile the graveyard. So at least you'll have something in your graveyard, if that makes sense. Let me know if I'm wrong on this, but I'm almost positive you'll go ahead and wipe the board, exile all graveyards, and then whatever got wiped ends up in your graveyard. So it doesn't completely get rid of the rebuilding process like Sorry, Farewell does, but this is still going to be a very powerful card that just does everything you needed to do at any stage of the game. So very flexible there. Another card I did want to shout out, because I do like my land strategies, is Rite of the Reliquary. Now I like this here because it says sacrifice another creature, search your library for a land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle a land card. So this can actually get every single land out of your library onto the battlefield. Now, what we need is something like a Scute Swarm, right? That way we're generating a creature whenever it enters the battlefield. That will go ahead and satisfy the sacrifice a creature clause. So now we always get a creature whenever a land enters the battlefield, and we can sacrifice it for Rite of the Reliquary. The only problem is we need something to untap it. So we can either use Retreat to Coral Helm. That way whenever a land enters the battlefield, we untap our Knight, and boom, we get another card, right? We can also use Field of the Dead, right? So the first card we search for is Field of the Dead. Now whenever a card enters the battlefield, or a land card enters the battlefield, we get that 2/2 zombie. So it can kind of search up the combo pieces by itself, which is pretty cool. Intruder Alarm also works here, because what's going to happen is the land enters the battlefield. The landfall triggers off of Scute Swarm, and then your creature enters the battlefield, untaps Rite of the Reliquary, right? So there's a lot of options here. I think this is going to be a pretty powerful card, and it can just tutor up some of your most impactful lands in your deck. So definitely keep your eye out for that one. It does also look like we are getting a new cycle. We have Flare of Cancellation and Flare of Cultivation. Now, these are free spells, but these ones are going to hurt a little more. We have to sacrifice a non-token green creature or a non-token blue creature to cast these for free. Now, in the green decks, it's probably not going to be as bad, because we probably have some stuff to put in the graveyard, like a Mana Dork or something, right? And we're definitely willing to give up a Mana Dork to get 2 lands into play, right? The only thing is, with the blue spell or the blue counter magic, there's a lot of very impactful blue creatures that you cast to have them on the battlefield, especially in a spell slinger or more competitive format. Those permanents need to stay on the battlefield because they're good. You don't want to sacrifice them. So I could see this being not as good as the free counter magic we already have. Just something to think about. There is probably going to be a white, red, and black one coming out. They're just not spoiled yet, but definitely keep your eye out for that. We are also getting a card that people have named Flood Moon, and this one is basically Blood Moon but in blue, and it's a merfolk, so that's notable for you merfolk players, and it's probably I know it's a modern archetype, so probably modern people are very excited to shut off some Tron lands, so enjoy that. I will say though, in Commander, this is going to be a little annoying to deal with in casual, and in competitive, it's not going to be as good as Blood Moon, because Blood Moon makes all of your things island, mountains. This makes all your things islands, so it does keep open your counter magic. It's not going to feel as oppressive as your Blood Moon effects. But I will say Blood Moon does allow you to still cast Dockside, and that's going to be off the table now. So just something to think about there. We are getting some pretty cool colorless tech as well with Ugin's Labyrinth. This is going to allow us to get rid of the very expensive card in our hand and count as mana ramp. So in those Eldrazi decks, this is going to be very welcome, and then colorless decks in general run some pretty expensive cards, so I'm very excited to have another colorless land that taps for 2 mana. This is probably going to be pretty solid. Planner Nexus, now this is probably going to see play in Tron decks in Modern. You guys can let me know in the comments if I'm right on that or not, but I'm pretty sure this is going to allow you to assemble it faster, since it is every non-basic land type. Again, let me know if I'm correct or not. That is going to do it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, this is going to be a crazy set, it looks like, so get ready. With that being said, I would like to thank my patrons, Newsome, Excessum, Chicken Salad, and Predator. You guys are amazing. You really keep the channel going. I appreciate you a ton. I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors, and I will see you in the next one.